Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team DOGE from National Junior College. The first economy that we have chosen is the United States of America. It is one of the world's largest economies, where domestic consumption makes up most of their GDP as compared to exports. It can be considered relatively less open since they make use of many trade barriers. In response to the pandemic, they have implemented many different kinds of fiscal policies that we have categorized as shown. The main aim of these fiscal policies is to increase aggregate demand, comprising of domestic consumption, investments, government expenditure, and net exports. First up, the government has spent on vaccine development and production, which is important in the pandemic. These medical-related measures will lead to an increase in government spending, a component of aggregate demand. Next, transfer payments are paid directly to households. These payments increase their disposable income and purchasing power, allowing them to consume more goods and services. Next, the Paycheck Protection Program allows firms to get forgiveness for loans to pay for wages and other expenses, allowing them to reduce their cost of production. While this might not directly affect AD, it causes aggregate supply in the short run to be reduced. Lastly, there has been many reductions in taxes to reduce withdrawals from the circular flow of income and increase disposable income, allowing households to increase consumption. The increase in AD can be represented by a rightward shift. Firms will then begin to see an unexpected fall in inventory levels and hence increase their level of production. Furthermore, the fall in SRAS will also allow firms to pass on these cost savings partially by increasing production levels. Next, monetary policies. With quantitative easing, the central bank purchases longer-term securities from the open market in order to increase the money supply and encourage lending and investment. Buying these securities adds new money to the economy, increasing the money supply, which lowers interest rate by bidding up fixed income securities. The lower interest rate causes the rate of profitability of investments to increase, causing the investment spending to rise. Furthermore, forward guidance allows for communication about future interest rate, which allows households and investors to be more confident about the performance and stability of the economy, spurring them to consume and invest more.
Now, let's move on to our next economy, Luxembourg. Similar to Singapore, it is an international financial center with small domestic market which is open to foreign trade. So imports and exports make up most of the aggregate demand, AD, as compared to consumption. Here are the four main fiscal policies that Luxembourg engages in. Similar to the US, the government spends on medical essentials, which increases the AD and hence national income by a multiple. It also helps to increase the quantity of healthcare supplies, increasing aggregate supply. The government has paid €1 billion worth of partial unemployment benefits, which increases income of the unemployed, hence increasing consumption. Firms were also helped with capital grants and lump sum assistance given specifically to businesses in certain industries. Corporate taxes were cancelled and tax payment were deferred to increase after-tax profitability and encourage investments. Overall, the effects of fiscal policy is similar to the US, which shifted AD to the right and increased national income. These are the monetary policies that Luxembourg engages in. First, for loan moratorium, loan payment is postponed to encourage firms to grow and invest to stimulate the economy.
Now we will be talking about the application of the policies to Singapore's context. First, we need to talk about the multiplier size. Singapore has a large MPM because it is import reliant, and it also has a large MPS because of the high compulsory rate of contribution to the CPF, so it has a very small multiplier size. These are the fiscal policies that we'll be covering in Singapore's context. The MAS has large reserves which give Singapore the ability to engage in fiscal policy, so the government can spend on essential vaccination research and healthcare services. Singapore also has a strong research sector for it to do research and development. Government spending, together with the multiplier effect, can increase the national income significantly, so this can help revive the economy. Overall, while it may be a strain on government budget and reserves, but because of the presence of relevant FOPs before COVID-19, it is still possible to implement this during the pandemic and post-pandemic. For grants to firms and individuals, Singapore can implement grants specifically for unemployed people, as well as for firms. Even though investments and consumption may increase, but the final change in the national income may not be significant due to the small multiplier effect, hence unlikely to revive the economy. In the long run, the government budget will be strained, and this could also result in allocative inefficiency. It may be feasible during the current pandemic if government has enough resources, but it is unsustainable in the long run after the pandemic. Singapore also has various tax deferment policies as well as extension of tax filing deadlines. Similar to transfer payments, even though taxes may be able to increase the consumption and investment, but the final change in national income may be marginal due to the small multiplier size, hence unlikely to revive the economy. In the long run, the government will have reduced tax revenue. Business expectations are very low, so the firms may not be responsive to these measures. It's possible to implement them during the pandemic if the government has sufficient reserves. It may be more effective after the pandemic when the business expectations are better.
In the USA, they implemented quantitative easing and forward guidance. However, the applicability of these policies to the Singaporean context will depend on the trilemma, which suggests that countries have three options from which to choose when making fundamental decisions about managing their international monetary policy agreements. However, only one side of the trilemma is achievable at any given time, as the three different sides of the trilemma are mutually exclusive. Singapore is a global financial hub with free capital inflow and outflow, and is import reliant, with a large proportion of goods imported, and hence we need to rely on managing exchange rate to maintain price stability. Hence, Singapore gives out control over its monetary policy. The USA, on the other hand, chooses to let its currency float freely while maintaining control over its monetary policy and allowing free capital flow. Hence, policies such as QE and forward guidance is not applicable to the Singaporean context. In Luxembourg, a loan moratorium was imposed and banks were advised to refrain from distributing accumulated profits. These policies are applicable to Singapore. In fact, the Monetary Authority of Singapore had a loan moratorium for small businesses and individuals. A loan moratorium can have the following effects. It increases disposable income, which encourages investment and consumption. However, not all the income will be used for consumption, and since the multiplier in Singapore is small, the final change in national income may be marginal. Hence, it is unlikely to revive the economy. The longer-term applicability of a loan moratorium is that firms will have the financial capital to continue running their businesses without having to shut down. And when firms don't shut down, this ensures the variety of products for consumers, ensuring consumer welfare. While this might be effective at easing pressure on struggling businesses in the short run, it may not be sustainable in the long run, as loans have to be repaid eventually.